My adoption papers tell me that my father concealed himself with another woman after I was born, my existence evidence of his indiscretion. Lee, which is my purported Korean surname, did not really tell me anything since along with Kim and Park, it seemingly constitutes more than half the country. Whether my surname actually is Lee mattered little, since I had no idea if it was real, whether it was my mother's or my father's. Only later, when I was immersed in finding my biological parents, did I learn that Koreans take great pride in being able to trace their lineage back many generations. I also learned, however, that many adoption narratives were fabricated by social workers. I've come to believe that truth for an adoptee is always subjective. I have not spoken to my father, though it is clear to say my adoptive father, in over a decade. And yet every time I read or write, hear or say my adopted surname, I am strongly aware of its presence. Even before I learned to read and write in English, people have wondered about my last name, Keats. To any other person, this would probably not be an issue, perhaps even a compliment. It might even lead to a realization of some past unknown family connection. But Keats has always given people pause, as if that surname cannot align with my body, as if by definition of the associative qualities of such a name, I cannot in fact be Keats. It's not surprising that we sometimes associate surnames with one's ethnicity, of their potential place of origin. Keats is soundly British, Flanagan Irish, From German, Nakamura Japanese, Kim Korean. Our surnames are markers of history, of longevity, of, at times, some semblance of clarity. Whenever I meet new people, they invariably ask questions like, "Where are you from?" when oftentimes they really mean, "What kind of X, Y, or Z are you?" As if registering that kind of data would allow the questioner to have some kind of grand epiphany, some kind of response like, "I knew it. I knew that wasn't your real last name. I knew there was something else." As if having this last name represents some sort of paradoxical game to be played, solved. Keats has always beguiled my physicality, has always forced me to offer a stranger something deep and intimate, something personal that will almost never be equally exchanged. As if that one fact is so devastatingly enough to place me, compartmentalize me, pin me down in their minds. And if so, what does that confirmation really do? Often it leads to an apology, in sympathy, in comments such as, "Well, I think you're doing great," or, "If your birth parents knew you, they would be proud." My credit card says Mark Lee Keats, and at every Korean restaurant, they inevitably always call me Mr. Lee, unsure, perhaps, with what follows the familiar surname. So they simply ignore it. After the third time, I stopped making a point to other Koreans that my last name was in fact legally Keats, not Lee, that I was adopted by both British and German parents, that I only spelled out Lee on my documents so that at least there wouldn't be total shock at my name when I walked through a door and shook hands with someone new. When I spoke with the lawyer who handled my mother's divorce about reclaiming my supposed birth name, I was told it would cost nearly $1,000. I was also told that I need to publish an announcement in the local paper to give people the chance to challenge it. How strange to have to pay to reclaim something which was mine when I came to America. I have spent over a decade and $1,000 searching Korea. I have sent letters to my orphanage, blood and hair samples to adoptee organizations. I have posted and reposted my information on various adoptee websites for the slim chance that someone is looking for me. I have even flown to Korea to visit my orphanage, to breathe in that air, to eat that food, to simply imagine what life might have been like, all in the name of locating one shred of evidence to some clearer version of truth. For 2 weeks, I was able to use Ancestry.com for free to research the Keats surname. I found my grandfather on my adoptive father's side, And as I enlarged that family tree, as I went back in time through the male line, generation by generation, it struck me as ironic how easily and simply I could find this information. As I continued going back through the Keats line, I saw a name I instantly recognized: John Keats. That monosyllabic accentuated sound, Keats, from the Old English kita or keet, meaning greed or rapacity. How heavy the crown, if the hearer is privy, that my last name has also evoked such an immense possibility, that I could somehow be related to whom Shelley lamented as Adonis, that I could finally confirm what had always been a question no matter what English literature course I took, no matter how old or young the professor. That was always our game, our little joke, that a Korean adopted could be in some way related to the poet who had proclaimed, "Beauty is truth, truth beauty, that is all you know on earth and all you need to know." But I am not related to that John Keats. I am related to John Keats, with 2 T's. John Keats, who married Mary Clark Gregory, who was the daughter of some of the earliest settlers in Virginia, where I last lived. My wife and I have discussed if we will give our children a Korean or an American name, or a combination of both, as many Korean Americans do. The real point of contention, however, comes from my surname. I've argued that we should give them my Korean surname, Lee. It will, I've told her, make things less complicated, less loaded. I think our children won't have to go through the same sequence, the same questioning. I think everything will compute. Asian body, Asian name. But Jen, also a Korean adoptee, argues against me. She says, what will people say if our children have a different last name than us? And can you really protect them from racism, whether benign or active? I tell her that I don't want to carry on the Keats name, that it's not even really me or mine, that it's merely a formality, a legality. But she says, you will finally know. You will finally know through that connection that that child is you and you are that child. And isn't that what you've been searching for this entire time?